Hello and welcome to Chatz8 Television Podcast, Season 15, Chatz8. Each week we watch and discuss 2 episodes of the Netflix oregano series, Sense8. I'm Alan, and I'm joined by Batvan's weird cousin, Robin Truck. It's Magellan!
Truck.
Truck,
Honk,
truck,
honk.
truck, truck.
Truck. What? Batvan? Oh, the
Batvan's
Batvan.
weird cousin, the Batvan. Joined by the Batvan's weird cousin,
Can you believe there
Robin.
was no Batvan in episode 2? The hell?
Severe lack of Batvan content in episode 2.
Severe
Really
lack.
JMS, you let me down again.
Severe lack, JMS.
This is the part where I beatbox. Hey guys, it's a Sense8 podcast. First of all, Magellan, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Today at work, I was speaking to a coworker who's a fellow content creator, and he was telling me about how he makes sure the first 10 seconds of his YouTube videos are really, engaging to get people interested.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, on our podcast, we try to be relatable in the first 5 minutes to keep people wanting to listen to us. And then immediately we're like, did you catch my intentional glitch, by the way, that I called it the Netflix oregano series? I didn't say original.
Yeah,
you didn't catch it?
I noticed.
I noticed. I'm glad you noticed.
You do things like that a lot.
What do you mean? What are you saying? You're being crazy right now.
I liked it. Netflix oregano. I liked it. Let's talk about Netflix for a second.
Yes, we must.
Finally, so I canceled it.
Oh, Magellan, we're literally about to talk about a Netflix original series.
I know. I canceled it last month, and then we decided we were going to do Sense8, and I was like, whoa, I made a mistake. Oh,
I guess I got to stay with my girlfriend for the next 6 months.
Shout out to my girlfriend for letting me use her Netflix account.
Girlfriend of the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Amanda. But yeah, it's gotten so expensive these days, that Netflix.
It really has. Yeah, I don't want
$16 a month. Are you freaking kidding me? And you don't have as good a stuff as HBO Max? Are you chonking right now?
I'm chonking hard, dude. I really am.
God,
yeah,
what's the deal with streaming services these days, huh?
Oh God, Magellan, we're gonna get so canceled. We're so out of touch. Well, I mean, the truth is, you're right, and people pay too much for streaming services because the alternative is what we had before, which is you pay $150 a month for cable. Yeah. But you also, everybody shares every account.
Sense8 cost a nickel.
It's 2015.
2015, yeah.
Yeah.
Early days of those Netflix oreganos. Do you like what I did there?
Yeah, it's a callback. It keeps the listener engaged and makes them feel good for remembering that. We said that earlier.
I want to play a little game with you here.
Okay.
I want you to guess which number Netflix original series Sense8 is.
Oh, in release order?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Wait. Oh, you know what?
What?
It's not on the list of Netflix original programming. Didn't they get it from somewhere or something?
I didn't think so. I thought it just came directly to Netflix. Science for Netflix, yeah. It's produced for Netflix.
It's not on this Wikipedia. Oh wait,
there is
list of ended Netflix original programming.
Oh.
Here we go. Okay. On the list of no longer, because Stranger Things is still ongoing, of course.
Yep.
When will it stop? On the list of ended Netflix original programs, where does Sense8 fall? Is the first question.
3.
No.
Okay. 7.
That's correct. 7.
Oh.
Now, you get 1 point for each of the 6 that precede it, and 1 point for each of the 6 that follow it.
Hemlock Grove, Lilyhammer, House of Cards.
Whoa. Okay, yes, Hemlock Grove. Yes, House of Cards. No to Lilyhammer.
Does Orange is the New Black count? Because it was...
Yes.
It what? Okay. Because it's over now.
Yeah.
BoJack Horseman?
No.
The 7 Deadly Sins anime?
No.
The Marco Polo series?
Yes.
Okay, that's all of the Netflix originals that I remember from this era.
Now, let me get you with this. So it goes House of Cards, Hemlock Grove, Orange is the New Black, Marco Polo. You got all those. Bloodline. Don't know what that is.
Sounds fake.
Daredevil.
Oh, good one.
And then Sense8 is followed later in 2015 by Narcos.
Yep.
And Jessica Jones.
Wait, what do you mean Netflix original Daredevil? Don't you mean Disney Plus original series Daredevil? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, my brain's gotten erased.
We've always
What
been at war
the
with
heck?
Jessica Jones.
Anyway, so I didn't realize they were really cranking them out in 2015, but I guess it's a couple of years into Netflix originals being a thing. Still early, but not the earliest.
Well, yes, because at the this is the era where they were throwing as many at the wall as they could so that it felt like what it is now, which is a TV channel that just has like 50 different shows for every single possible audience. And it's a bummer because nowadays, like Hemlock Grove recently got delisted from Netflix just because, you know, ever since that HBO Max deal, streaming companies think it's normal and good to just like write off shows as a tax write-off and be like, okay, doesn't exist anymore. And it's like, guys, you also
so there's
don't
nowhere to get it except like DVD or something.
And they don't even always release stuff on DVD though. On October 22nd, 2022, all 3 seasons of Hemlock Grove are just going to be wiped. And like that's a spooky show. That's a perfect Halloween rewatch show.
That is spooky. It's so 33 episodes of
Eli
an American horror streaming television series.
I knew what you were going to do. I remember seeing ads for Hemlock Grove.
Happenings, Hemlock Grove, fictional town in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yeah, come on.
It's got a Skarsgård.
Recent brutal murders stirred up rumors.
Famke Janssen.
It's got a Skarsgård.
I watched
Famke
a lot of these
Janssen?
for a while. Yeah.
Famke.
Danke, Famke.
It's Bill Skarsgård. Sorry, Bill.
I only
Just
like
kidding.
Stellan.
I'm just
Be nice to
kidding,
the
Bill.
Skarsgårds.
Bill, I thought you were great in It Chapter 2. Sorry, Bill. Sorry,
I think
Bill.
he was actually maybe Pennywise. I could be wrong.
He was Pennywise the dancing clown.
There it is. Why must the clown dance?
Both It's.
It's. I went to San Francisco recently, both as research for Sense8 and to try and It's for the sake of this punchline.
What did you think of It's?
They're really good.
Yeah, that was my
That's
freshman
it.
15 and sophomore year was It's.
Just straight It's to the face.
Yeah.
Pounded back It's for those who don't know is our regional it's like a Northern California thing specifically, right? Or is this a California thing?
I've only ever had them in Northern California, but I don't know for sure.
And it is an ice cream sandwich, but the sandwich part is oatmeal cookies. They're so
and it's isn't it chocolate covered all the way around? Or
I
no?
believe yeah. The whole thing is covered in chocolate. That's correct.
Yeah,
they're pretty good
stuff.
Yeah, you don't think the oatmeal's gonna be that good. Anyways, yeah, that's the Netflix side of Sense8. It's a 3-tiered pyramid that brings us into Sense8. Number 1 is Netflix. Number 2, the Wachowski sisters. Magellan, what's your history with the Wachowski sisters?
I like some of their movies. I wish I have seen more of them. I've seen all 4 Matrix movies.
Yes.
I can say that now. When you heard our pilot chats last week, by the way, we piloted Sense8 on our Patreon back in 2019. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
About 3 years ago, almost exactly to the release of this episode, which is kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And at that time, there were only 3 Matrix movies. Can you believe it? Back in my day, a Matrix movie cost you a nickel. And now it costs you $20, and it's a wonderful thing. Only on HBO Max, by the way. So you don't need to do Netflix. Go check it out on HBO. Anyway, I've seen the Matrix movies. Have I seen another Wachowski sister film? No. I don't think so.
Have you not
and
seen
I
Speed
feel
Racer?
badly about that. No. And Patrick H. Willems, YouTuber film guy, loves that movie. And I like Patrick H. Willems. I think he has good opinions. You like Speed Racer, right?
I love Speed Racer. It's one of my favorite films. I'm like grinning at the camera like I said something really clever. I've seen every single Wachowski sisters written and directed movie except Cloud Atlas, which I really love the premise, and I read a lot of the book and then I burned out on it in like 2012. This is when I was getting into ebooks very briefly, so I was like, oh, I don't care about this. It's electronic. It's fake.
You've seen Jupiter Ascending?
Yeah, I watched it for Fireside Friends like 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, cool.
It's awesome.
You've seen V for Vendetta?
I have. I also watched it for Fireside Friends. We watched good movies.
I didn't know they were involved with that film.
They didn't.
It looks like.
Yeah, they wrote it. It was directed by Jim McTeague. V for Vendetta is not great, and also it doesn't feel like it's definitely a Wachowski script, but it's not a Wachowski directed film. And then Bound, which is my favorite Wachowski movie, is amazing, fantastic, everything I want out of movies, and not just because it's gay, you guys. Not just because it's gay. Relax. It's also really sharply directed and written, and I think it's clever and interesting. And gay. Anyways, Sense8. Number 3, the third pyramid, the third part of the pyramid. So we got the Wachowskis, we got Netflix, we have J. Michael Straczynski, who is co-showrunning this show along with Lily and Lana Wachowski. Our history with JMS, Magellan and I is mutual. We both watched and covered Babylon 5 here on the Chatz feed back in 2018 into 2019. Loved Babylon 5, his sort of baby project for his 4-year journey through sci-fi television. And we've both read a decent amount of his comics, I believe. We've read obviously the famous Spider-Man 9/11 comic and read his autobiography for our Patreon, Waiting for Superman.
I read parts of it. Yeah, I didn't read
That's
the whole
what
thing.
it was.
Or I listened to parts of it on audiobook.
Audiobook, yes.
Peter Jurasik.
Yes. Oh, shout out to the king. I was about to say rest in peace to the king, but he is alive. Thank God.
He's alive. Thank God. Yeah, so we've got some stuff bringing us into that show, getting us excited about it. We really liked it when we piloted it a few years ago.
We did. You guys heard that last week?
We're here covering it. So we didn't think it made sense to go down the pilot. Usually in these episodes of Chats, if you're new to us, we'll watch a cult classic TV show 2 episodes a week, and we'll spend half of our podcast each week discussing each episode. We didn't think it made sense to go super in-depth, beat by beat, with the plot of the pilot of Sense8, because we did that on the pilot chat, so it was pretty thorough discussion. So we'll just sort of talk about, coming back to it 3 years later, what are the things that still hold true for us, or have new things popped out, new questions or things we're trying to look for. And just to clarify, I've never seen Sense8 before. Alan, you've seen the first season, right?
Correct. So there is Sense8 is one season, a Christmas special extended episode, and then a second season. I've watched the first season and the Christmas special. That's it.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Great. So yeah, I'm curious. Oh, should we read a summary for the first episode? I forgot how the podcast
works. This week on Chats, we watched Sense8 Season 1, Episode 1, Limbic Resonance, and Episode 2, I Am Also a We. Limbic Resonance was written and directed by Lily and Lana Wachowski. It was also co-written by J. Michael Straczynski, as were every episode of the show, I think. We'll keep track of that, though. And Season 1 aired, as in it dropped all in one batch, on June 5th, 2015. So, Majan, Can you tell me what happened in Limbic Resonance, please?
In this episode, after inexplicably seeing a vision of a woman that they have never met before, 8 uniquely different people from across the globe start seeing and hearing things that they have not experienced. Whoa. So essentially the premise of Sense8, as we understand it by the end of this pilot, is that we have these 8 characters who are far-flung across the globe, but somehow have this kind of psychic link or are sensing each other's lives. And that's what the first episode gives us, essentially.
Yeah. They're called Sense8s. Sensates.
Yeah, which we learned in, I think at the second episode they give us that word, right?
Yep.
There are 8 characters, just to run them down for folks. And Alan, thank you for bolding their names in your notes. We have Will Gorski, who's a cop.
That's all we know so far. He's a rough and tumble cop in Chicago with a sketchy past and daddy issues.
Yeah. Riley Blue, who's like a EDM or electronic music musician. And she's got cool hair, and that's going on. and she does DMT or doesn't do DMT, or she does do the DMT.
She's getting wrapped up in some not gang issues, but like betrayal, money, drug issues.
Scary stuff. People get shot in her plot. Lito Rodriguez, who is living in Mexico City. He is an actor, and we learn a little more about him in the second episode. Sun Bak, who is a businesswoman in Seoul, South Korea. We don't get a lot of her plot in this first episode beyond
sexism exists.
Corporate sexism, which are, that's shitty. Kala Dandekar in Mumbai. And we talked about this in our pilot chats, but right now, as of the pilot, the main thing that we know about her is that she is going to marry someone who she doesn't necessarily want to marry. She did not choose this for herself, kind of thing. Wolfgang Bogdano is a German,
safecracker. What do they call him? Like a box man?
Yeah, box man. He has family ties to what seems to be an organized crime syndicate in Berlin. His father passes away at the beginning of the episode. He doesn't like his father very much. We have Cafius Onyango, who lives in Nairobi, takes care of his mother and drives the Van Damme, which is a Jean-Claude Van Damme themed bus. Awesome. And then our last Sense8 is Nomi Marks, who's a trans woman who lives with her girlfriend, Amanita, in San Francisco, California. And we join them in the midst of Pride in SF, which is fun. So those are the eight main characters. What were your feelings returning to this pilot and to this cast after having been away from the show for a few years and like re-encountering those characters?
Yeah, I really love these characters, and you're gonna come to love them a lot more throughout this first season. I think that's like where the show succeeds over a lot of other Wachowski's works, because they love movies and stories about the connection between all people. The Matrix is about this, Jupiter Ascending is about this, Cloud Atlas is about this, and in a way, Speed Racer is even about this. And this show starts out by printing in such broad strokes that I found myself, just like I said this in the pilot chats, like, yeah, this is fine. I'm just waiting for it to get good. But like, you need to do it like this early on. You need to make everybody super duper broad. And then you give yourself time to zoom into those characters. And that's also like a very much a JMS script writing thing, is like, you thought that these people were really straightforward and for this and that reason, but actually there's a little bit more to each of them than you think. And so like, I was watching this episode with a lot of like bated anticipation, and now having seen it, I mean, like 3 if not 4 times, I'm like, I almost have memorized the plot beats of it. So I spent a lot of it just being like, yep, this part's good. Just like, my notes are like really weirdly specific because all I had left to find were like stray details. But I think it's a pretty strong pilot, and it still holds up pretty well. What about you?
Yeah, I think what I was thinking about, I was kind of in the 1,000-foot view of the show, and also the micro details, like you were saying. And I was thinking about just like the narrative undertaking of telling 8 stories at once. And I think what I am seeing from having seen the second episode is it's not actually a show that's 8 stories at once necessarily. That's just where we start. And also, not every episode is going to have every character, which I think the pilot makes you feel like that's going to be the case. But in actuality, I think there were characters who didn't show up in the second episode. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Like, we didn't see Sun Bak or Cafius at all. Mm-hmm. And so, I think the pilot is really dazzling. I think we talked in our pilot chats about how cool it is to see the show shooting on location around the world. And you really feel the authenticity of like, we're in tons of different places for real. And isn't that kind of awesome? But it is a little predictable, like, and I think that's part of the point, is they want you to get the characters right away so that they can then take those characters out of their comfortable circumstances and put them in each other's lives and move them around the world and stuff. But what that ends up doing, I think, negatively in the pilot is it makes some of the characters, or even especially the people in their lives, feel stereotypical to me, which is kind of hard to avoid when you're trying to tell 8 like act ones in a little over an hour. And the fact that this pilot is like legible, followable, hits all those characters, like interweaves between them. I think it's easy to criticize it because of those things, but it is really an impressive feat of storytelling to like make all of that work, and storytelling both on the page and through the way that things are shot, to like create the illusion of like thought moving from one scene to another, like when a sensation happens in one place, it being felt somewhere else, and the way that the camera communicates that. It's really like you could only make a show like this as capably as it's done with folks like the Wachowski sisters or JMS, or both of them together, who like know how to make stuff work, because I can't imagine it in anybody else's hands being nearly as clear as it is. So I was impressed by the pilot, even given, some of the corner cutting or like oversimplification that has to happen just to get all the chess pieces on the board here.
Yeah, it's a massive undertaking, and just, we said this before, but just choosing to do the on location thing makes everything harder. There are scenes, and there will be more scenes where people like see each other in each other's stories, and that literally did necessitate flying people out back and forth and saying, well, I got to film your scenes in episode 7 net today because we're in Africa, and then you have to come with me, and we're going to film episodes 1 and 2. Like, it just, the fact that this show has any character and narrative consistency is like really astonishing because of how much travel had to happen and like narrative work to make that make sense. But I think production wise too, what's cool is, the concept of a match cut, right? You cut the camera such that the next shot connects in some way, material or otherwise, to the shot that it cut from. And doing that in the mind and stories of 8 people whose literal lives are connected to each other leads to some really clever little moments. And like I said, will just continue to happen. So I really enjoyed like looking at this. This is a beautiful pilot. I was watching it with, I actually didn't watch the pilot with roommate of the podcast, Colin, but I watched the second episode with him. And a lot of my notes were like, damn, the directing on this is sharp as hell. They know how to, I will say, and I said this again in the pilot chats, the Wachowskis, good at the interconnectedness of human beings, like mostly pretty bad at race, but, they handle that to mixed results in a show that is literally about diversity and how we're all different types of people. So get something just to like put a pin in for now.
Yeah.
I want to know if there were any other big things you had to say before we go into quick story notes about this episode.
I think the other thing that I want to follow and consider is, when you do a show that's like, okay, we're going to spread it across the world and we're going to have 8 characters, you're having to make decisions ultimately about who those 8 characters are, right? Mm-hmm. And it's, I think, just something that like I don't have a decided take on necessarily, but that I want us to be thinking about, of like the geographical origins of these characters, their gender identities, their sexual orientations, their religious affiliations, like the kind of panorama or the patchwork here of identities that's on display, and how those things interact, and how the show is like emphasizing or de-emphasizing certain commonalities or certain differences between characters, I think is telling about like what is it the show wants to investigate, right? Because you could tell a whole hell of a lot of stories from the base premise of there are 8 characters all around the world who are psychically linked to each other and can sense each other's lives.
Yeah.
Like at a base level, you're probably going to tell a story about like the power of empathy and human connection and like what it means to understand other people. But like the lens that you take on that, I think can vary wildly from storyteller to storyteller. And so for me, I'm just curious to kind of watch that unfold, because there are some characters where I can sort of see like, you know, why this character is here, what they can help us to understand. And then other characters where it's like, you just wanted like a cool German safecracker. Like he's cool.
He's
but
kind of
like,
hot. Right.
But like, what's the, you know, like he feels like a cool movie character instead of like a different kind of human story or perspective. I don't know. So I think that's interesting to me. Of, on the one hand, you have 8 protagonists, which means that you have a broader perspective than most shows, but you also are still having to draw the line somewhere, right? Because you only have 8. You don't have 8 trillion or however many people there are on the planet. So is that right?
7. Let's call it 7.5 billion.
Billion. Sorry. Yeah. So that's something that I'm just like, I'm curious to see unfold. And I think in the second episode, we start to see some of those themes play out, or at least they focus on a certain set of themes in episode 2. But that's the thing that I'm watching for as the show goes on.
Yeah. The thing I remember the most about season 1, besides like the fact that there are 2 games happening here. Number 1, the first game is, how do you make me like these characters? And the pilot does a good job of this by focusing on just their individual stories and not too much on the second game that's being played, which is, what is Sense8 the series about? Right. And like, these are 8 people who are being chased by a mysterious force that can go into their brain, and they're being guided by another mysterious person. And they were given powers by a third mysterious person. And all of those factions form their own little narrative that like we will talk about. But right now the pilot like blissfully doesn't focus too much on that. Instead, it's just like, hey, let's go character first before we go into lore, why they have the powers, what do the powers even mean, and all that. Like, what connects them, and why do we choose these specific 8 people as opposed to like, this wasn't this is not a spoiler to say this. They didn't just hit random on the planet and pick 8 random people from around the world. Right.
Because then why are there no characters who live in mainland China?
Exactly. Right. Well, the odds of that are staggering. Yes.
Yeah.
They chose these people for a reason. And so did the creators of the show. You know, they wanted to tell a global story that features primarily like cities and not too many like rural areas. You know, that's why most of them live in metropolitan areas. My other like big thing is just that like the Wachowskis they're so earnest. They so truly earnestly believe that like connection will set us free and will set our minds free. And that was at the heart of, like I said, The Matrix, like their first big film together. And at Bound, actually, they're another Wachowski film, is like, if we can listen to each other, if we can break past the barrier of communication, we can find profound connection between every little human on Earth. And you know, I respect that earnestness. I want more of that in my television. I also know that writing a story like that can feel, as a viewer, like you feel you're watching something kind of awkward or corny, or, you know, I hate to use the term, but the internet term cringy often applies to like certain visual details or plot details in Sense8. And like, this is a story being written by 2 trans women. And like, Lana Wachowski was literally in the process of coming out when they decided to produce the series. So like, well, I have a lot of attachment and love for Nomi Marks because in part she's based on Lana's life, and Amanita is based on her partner. And so like, it feels like in a cynical way, it's Baby's first trans narrative. And that can be like kind of disappointing watching in 2022. And you say, there's so much more than this. But at the same time, this is based on a real person's real life. Like literally in the year that she figured out she was trans. Of course it's awkward. Of course it's like really broad and cringy, and like, you know, they make all the jokes, not the jokes, but there's like all the dead naming in the second episode is because that probably all really happened to her. And like, we don't talk about it, but it's important to show that like sometimes, you know, plots and storylines about connection and empathy also mean that like you are acknowledging that some people just suck and they're weird. And you know, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's very vulnerable. in a way. And that's something that like I love about Nomi's storyline is it doesn't shy away from just embracing the discomfort of being trans and the weird feeling of existing in your body that comes from that. And the beauty that comes from that as well.
Yeah.
So those are like the big things. Did you have any quick like hit notes, new notes that you didn't reference or talk about in the first viewing?
I want to double down on your interpretation of Nomi's character and plot there.
Yeah.
And I will say, a knock that I had against the show that I'm like softening on a little bit is just it's very like explicitly sexual, and graphically so. And I think there's something to be said for like specifically like Nomi and her girlfriend having a graphic sex scene in a TV show and how like important that is. I don't know. That actually felt I wasn't quite as just squeamish about their naked people on my screen this time around. And I was more like, I respect the what's happening here and what that means in 2015 to have a moment like that. I think it's
huge at the time.
Yeah, I think it is still something that I'm like, okay, we don't need to cut to the strap on flopping against the floor. Like there's some gratuity here, but I think it's my opinion on that scene has changed somewhat. Someone to point that out.
The truth is, in 2015 was such a big time for like trans people online to like understand each other and to come out and find community. I know people and have known people that would like tweet stuff like that and like be explicit in that way that you're like, oh my God, I didn't need to know about how wet your strap on is. But the truth is, this is what happens when you are repressed for your entire life and told that everything you think is wrong and you need to bury those thoughts in as deep down as you can. It's like, all right, well, this is my ultimate fuck you. And the Wachowskis have always been big on rebellion and going against the status quo. So like, that's why it's explicit. I think that it's also like, exciting and there's something a little bit titillating about it for certain people, but like it's also just how queer people are, especially on the internet, and we can confront how that can be cool or interesting or also still awkward. I don't think it's inappropriate to say that I still found that scene uncomfortable, but it's beautiful at the same time. That's the magic.
Yeah, we can acknowledge all parts of that, I think, is where I'm landing on it. Which, so I'm with you there. Couple lines that I liked. I want to know, first of all, a lot more about this Jonas guy and Angelica and the scary guy with the gray hair at the beginning. They'll be hunted, born or unborn. You can give them a fighting chance. Born or unborn. So are there some people who weren't born Sense8 powers? Interesting question. What does it mean for her to be giving birth to them? I'm wondering about that.
Is she literally a mom to them, or what does that mean?
Yeah. There's a guy who says about Riley, she can spin for a girl, can't she? And another woke king who says she can spin, period. Thank you.
2015.
My feminist friends.
I believe that was Nyx, by the way. My one note about him is that now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that's Benjen Stark from Game of Thrones. And that's Adar from Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah. Cool actor cameo.
I love the line that Leto gets wrong when he says, Padre, I've come to blow your fucking brains out. That's good.
Love. Oh, God. We'll talk about Leto.
Yeah. The Capheus's friend who runs the bus with him says, we don't need customers, we need a Facebook page.
2015.
And then the Bat Van guy says, you dumb fucks. No one gives a shit about Van Damme.
It's so mean. I love that. I love it. It's hilarious.
I still really like the safe cracking sequence. intercutting with the car chase.
Yeah.
And I like Wolfgang taking a break to watch the singing competition, even though the CG looks horrible on that singing show.
Also, speaking of hammy, how hammy is that he's like, my biggest fear is being judged because my parents judged me as a kid. Anyways, I really like singing competition shows where they're judged. I don't know why. I just like them.
Yeah,
it's
that
weird.
was silly.
Like, come on.
My hot take. This is my last note on this episode. I just saw it in my notes. I don't think this show should use flashbacks. There's a few moments of flashback in the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it in this show. I think it's the only part that was a little confusing. There wasn't anything to visually distinguish them. And it was like a little on the nose. And I don't know that we needed to do those. So that was my only thing is flashbacks. It's interesting to me, like when you establish a show and establish what's in the storytelling language for it or the toolkit. And to me, there were some flashbacks and I was like, I don't need that. I don't need Wolfgang's dad like laughing at him at his recital.
Oh my God, it's so corny.
Yeah. So that was.
I don't want to keep saying that because that's like honestly half of this show is like, oh really, really.
Yeah, but and I fuck with it. I like a corny show.
Mm-hmm. But, I prefer corny to grimdark. Obviously, y'all know us if you've listened to Chats at all. That's wonderful. I think the only big one I had was actually the title of the episode, Limbic Resonance, is uttered by Nix to Riley. And it brings to mind this interesting thing that the show does where people in the universe totally actually understand what being a Sense8 is. They just don't have the words for it yet. Like, Nix is somebody who, like, experiments with a lot of drugs and says things like, hey, we're all connected, right? And that, like, we are experiencing sometimes when we don't know why we're crying, it's because somebody else in another world that we're connected to is crying and they're really sad. That's limbic resonance. Or like when you're with family or they're not next to you and they experience something, that's limbic resonance. Anyways, if you take this DMT, then you'll feel it really strong. And it's like, the show has a really interesting relationship to drugs and also like how drugs can open or close your consciousness. Something it's again just very 2015 about it, but like I want to think about that more and how like sometimes the drugs do actually help and do actually make you feel more strong and connected to the people, but also there is some like the classic flush your pills plot line stuff in the second episode, which we'll talk about. I think there was a guy at Wolfgang's father's funeral who turns around and is mad at him and he says, "Your dicks are gonna shrivel," which is just an incredible line that needs to be shouted out. And then Leto having a huge erection and really wanting a Diet Coke are two things that I can theoretically relate to, maybe, but I can't explicitly say which one more than the other, although let's just say I really like Diet Coke. What's it called? Wolfgang's piss is the least realistic piss I've ever seen on television, and I've seen a little bit of piss on television. At SF Pride, they're eating Mission burritos, and then a fairy gives them drugs. And when I went to SF this past month, at least one of those things happened.
You're so full of mystery today.
I think, I want people to think it's like a mystery show. Pick which one you think is going to happen. When I went with friend of the podcast Justin to Dolores Park, by the way, where we sat and had a picnic is almost exactly where Nomi and Amanita sit down and watch things happen in this episode. I was like,
awesome. We
did not plan that. We did plan like we're gonna go to the quote unquote Sense8 park, but like I can show you photos later. It's eerie. I was like, did I stand? Whoa! I definitely sat where they filmed this. It's cool. It's a great park. I recommend going if you're ever in San Francisco. And then, speaking of like, this was written by a trans person, the transphobia within the queer community, like the woman who is like, it's just another man, policing.
Male. Yeah.
Wild. And also like bold, but true. There is a lot of that in the community and it sucks even today.
Yeah. I mean, that was a moment where it was cool to see that in a show depicted and explored. And I think that line still hit me. Of I'm crying because I've never been defended before. Nobody's ever defended me. Still really beautiful. And also that's just one of those scenes where like, because we're dealing with 8 different plots, this side character went from like, oh hey, to boom, like I hate you, because we have to go through the scene really fast. Like that scene felt really quick to me when I wanted to sit in it a little bit more,
Yeah.
And that's
I think
the downside of this
perfect example of the side characters. I'm sorry. Perfect example of the side characters like being rushed is everything with Will Gorski's plot. Everything with the cop stuff is like embarrassingly bad. The cops hate gangbangers hate cops. That's all it is. It's like, what? And then the nurse being like, we've been a better hospital since we stopped taking kids like him. Like, don't even, like I said, the Wachowskis not extremely good at handling racial issues at all.
Yeah. I was not a fan.
Not at all. And then I didn't catch this before. The final montage with all the connectedness, like, wow, they're experiencing things, is scored by Sigur Rós, which, like, come on, guys. If you're familiar with their music, is very, like, it's like the music equivalent of Sense8. Like, oh, we're all in this together. It's all, they're like a post-rock band from Reykjavik. Like, they're that. And it's hilarious. Anyways, that's all we got for this episode. Reykjavik, Iceland. We're going to learn more about Iceland in Sense8.
I can't wait.
Sense8, I can't wait. Let's take a brief musical break, and we will be right back to discuss I Am Also a We. Like, oh, we're all in this together. It's all, they're like a post-rock band from Reykjavik. Like, they're that. And it's hilarious. Anyways, that's all we got for this episode. Reykjavik, Iceland. We're going to learn more about Iceland in Sense8.
I can't wait.
Sense8, I can't wait. Let's take a brief musical break, and we will be right back to discuss I Am Also a We.
Welcome back to Chatz8. The second episode we watched this week was Sense8 Season 1. So many fucking numbers. Sense8 Season 1, Episode 2, I Am Also a We. Written by Lily and Lana Wachowski and J. Michael Straczynski. Directed by Lily and Lana Wachowski. It aired along with the rest of Season 1 of Sense8 on June 5th, 2015. Alan, what happened in I Am Also a We?
In this episode, Nomi's fortunes take a dark turn as she is diagnosed with a brain illness by a quack doctor. Meanwhile, the rest of the Sense8's connections become stronger and more dangerous.
Oh.
So it's not to say that this is a two-part pilot, but there are crucial details in this episode that we didn't get in the first one. And I'm so excited to finally talk about them.
The show.
The show. Let's first talk about the fact that there were a couple of characters missing from this, right? So, a show being released all at once means that they don't necessarily have to have everybody in every episode. It doesn't work like that for union rules. People can still get paid in episodes that they're not in, because they're just part of they're all on main cast. All 8 of the actors are in main cast.
Uh-huh.
But that means that narratively, we occasionally have certain plots that sag or that are not anywhere for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 episodes in a row. Mm. In this episode of Sense8, we hear nothing from Sunbach or Capheus. 2 of my faves. What are they up to? Who knows? Sun last episode saw a chicken from Capheus, actually. And he is still presumably dealing with the Batman and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, you saying that this came out, the season's coming out all at once, helps me to contextualize why the show would just kind of rest some characters for an episode or 2. Because, like, if people are binging this show, then what's the difference? Mm-hmm. It makes some sense to do that. 8. Sorry. Makes some 8. Sense8 to do that. 8. And maybe they just aren't horny. Because you're not allowed to be in this episode if you're not at least a little bit, wanting to get it going on here.
Ladies, gentlemen, I guess, raise your hands if you're horny. And then all 6 characters in this episode raise their hands.
Yeah. So we'll see them next week, I suppose.
Presumably.
Yeah.
Let's go down the order.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this episode character by character because we're still not at the point in the series where everyone's like in each other's brains and being like, "Hey, what's up? I'm Sun. Hey, I'm Wolfgang. I'm Riley."
Right.
Let's start with the girl of the hour. It's Nomi Marks.
Yeah, this one feels like Nomi is the central character of this episode. I would make that case. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that often that's how I remember the show, is that Nomi is the main character, but that may just be because of where I was in 2015, and like she was the character that was most interesting to me for a long time. But yeah, I think just she like time wise definitely occupies the most narrative weight in this episode because she. Well, first of all, we learned that her hustle, her career, is that she is and I winced when I read this, she's a hacktivist, or she was a hacktivist at one point.
That's what was going on there?
Yeah, early in the episode when they're talking about like what jobs you do, she's like, I'm a hacktivist. Remember earlier when I said that Lana Wachowski had just transitioned and was like being introduced to the queer community in a big way? This is like a very, very common trans girl stereotype that's often true, is that they're good with computers, but like, and like that they're hackers. It's all part of the like body mod. It's been a trope since like the early 90s, if not earlier, of
Sure.
if you can change your body, then you can change computers. Like, huh? It's just like a corny stereotype, but the whole show is that. And I remember thinking that at the time, even like really in 2015, we're still gonna do that. They also talk about her writing a speech for the San Francisco Pride Parade, which is cutting back and forth between Leto's plot. And my favorite moment of these 2 episodes is when she's reading out the speech, and at the end she says, "And that is why we march for the pride." And then the beat drops in the like EDM song playing in the background. It reminded me of that clip. I cannot find it. I tried Googling it before the episode. But there was a DJ who said some like really grim shit, like "rest in peace" to like King George or something, and then like dropped the beat at his concert, and it was so funny. And I really, if someone can find it for me, please send it over.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So this record is in honor of George Floyd, and I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So, shout out to his family.
So even though we face difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream.
It was that, but in a show. Like, they chose to do it like that.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate the earnestness of Nomi's plot and being like, yeah, like, doing something for Pride doesn't just mean like wearing colors and getting on a motorcycle and driving around. It also means like, what does like being an activist constitute? What does being a writer mean? And how do you, what is like being a good writer, and what do you bring to the community with that talent? I thought that was all like fairly interesting. And then it goes into like turbo tropey territory, right? Because she falls off of this motorcycle during the parade, ends up in the hospital where her mom and sister find her with this guy, and they're telling her about this guy, Dr. Metzger, who reveals that she supposedly has a like really bad brain issue that will require her to get what is ostensibly, as Jonas reveals to her, a lobotomy. And this scene is just extraordinarily uncomfortable. How did you feel about learning Nomi's dead name and hearing her get misgendered by her mom in a really uncomfortable and realistic way?
Yeah, it sucked. It was just really uncomfortable. I think it does, like, Nomi's plot ends up being this sort of like thriller plot, or like this, I don't know, like a horror movie almost, of like, I'm held in, not to, distance it too far from reality, because this is obviously grounded in people's real lived experiences. But I just mean in terms of like how it ends up being shot and paced and scored and all those things, like how it becomes cinema-fied. And I think that this scene does a lot to lay the groundwork of like unease and discomfort that's then used in those later scenes as the episode has like ratcheted up the tension to make it this more like kind of genuinely scary experience. But yeah, this scene was upsetting, and I think it does a lot to communicate one of the aims of the show, which is like to get us to understand the lived experience of other people and like be in their bodies, in their perspectives, in their minds, in their hearts and souls. Yeah. So I thought it was effective to me anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think it definitely, nowadays we've seen the like depth of trans narratives advance so much since then, but I mean,
but for 2015, this is important that this is on Netflix, on TV.
1,000%. Yeah, I agree. And it's all the tropes though. Like it's the supportive younger sister, Tegan. I love that her name is Tegan, by the way. It's the doctor refuses to help you and is trapping you in the hospital. That's like a horror movie plot, like you were saying. And then it's just the mom repeatedly misgendering her and calling her by her dead name and like it's the thing where you watch Amanita defend her from the other people and you go like, wow, it's so good. Like you watch that in isolation in the pilot and you say, wow, it's so corny. Like it's so like simple. It's very wholesome and sweet. But like, why do I care? And then you remember that Nomi is the same person who like goes home to her mom who refuses to acknowledge her existence as it is. And so like, of course that moment actually struck a chord with her and felt profound, because her day-to-day life is hellish with her family. And that's why she's been trying to get away for so long. And like, when it comes to the United States medical system, sometimes you can't. You need they make the whole thing about like, you have to use my insurance if you want to get this, which means using your dead name and me financially supporting you. It's 100% her mom manipulating her and trying to get her to need her, which is like profoundly fucked,
Yeah. This plot does a lot to communicate the kind of institutional hostility that happens towards trans people and queer people more broadly, with the doctor saying, "Know me, is it?" Like that sort of like microaggressive moment, and then this like legal bind that Nomi finds herself in, where she tries to release herself from the hospital and is told, well, the doctor and your family signed a thing, and so they can keep you here, even though you like don't feel a sort of connection to them. You actually feel contempt for your mother. There's this like set of legal rights that we're conferring upon your mother because she's your mother, and that's it. And yeah, I think this plot, it wears a lot on its sleeve. And like you're saying, I would like to think that, if the show were to hit Netflix in 2022, this would be a lot more nuanced of a plot, or there would kind of be more variety of perspective happening here, or just portrayed in a more nuanced way. But I think it very clearly communicates that theme of like medical care can be a dangerous place for folks like Nomi, and it definitely was affecting to me when I watched it because of that.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to acknowledge again just the context. Like, we have so many stories like this of queer people suffering, of transphobia being rampant amongst families and friends and all that, and like showing that it comes from the family and not from like some mysterious man on the street is important and nuanced.
Yeah.
But like compare this to example something like 2022's Heartstopper, which is about two young gay boys in England, and how that like we talked in our Should You Watch episode about that series, how like not every queer love story, queer story has to be about tragedy and heartbreak and violence.
For sure.
And like, yeah, Nomi's plot definitely treads in that, but it acknowledges through characters like Amanita that like you have people who love you. Amanita like is going to free her out of this hospital. It seems like she has an ally who allows her in and lets her use the phone because like, you know, you maintain your allies and they will help you for the long run, you know? So it's treading in both. It's not just about like sadness, and it's not just, hey, Nomi's gonna, you know, have something horrible happen to her. It's also, yeah, but people can help you and get you out of that, whether it's breaking you out of the hospital, which, you know, nowadays I would say there's this stereotype of like, if you want to free your mind or if you want to be yourself, then you need to throw away your pills. And I don't love that, but it's not really about that. And I can respect that aspect of it.
Right. And it's, I think, you know, they're trying to make that duality happen in this plot of like, the things that are dangerous and the ways that we resist or free ourselves from those things, and the kind of joy that counterbalances it. And I think that's been a part of Nomi's plot from the first episode, with the way that we have these like kind of rapturous moments of observing pride and engaging with it. We have the same thing in this episode. And in the pilot, there's then that dance performance that Nomi visits, that I believe is a reflection on the AIDS crisis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep.
And this plot certainly feels like, to me at least, like it's trying to evoke some kind of similar themes about the relationship between the queer community and like these sorts of structures in our society that are ostensibly meant to help people, but in reality often overlook them, ignore them, harm them, confine them, all of these sorts of things. So it's interesting to see that duality play out. And at times there's a dissonance, and at times I think they do it well.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's Nomi. I want to see her do well. And I think that I know that this plot goes good places, but it's in a sad position right now. Do we want to move on to talk about Leto?
Yeah. So Leto, we learned some stuff about Leto. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So when we had done that pilot chats back in 2019, I didn't draw. I managed to hold back from Magellan. I've told him in the interim because I have no self-control. And Leto is a closeted gay man, and that is why he had that erection in the first episode. That is why he refuses to kiss girls and have sex with women. His plot this episode primarily concerns his relationship with a woman named Daniela, who is his sort of arm candy, and later agrees to basically be his beard. For those who don't know, a beard is usually a straight person who is in a public romantic relationship with a gay person so that they can, have a private romantic or sexual life with other gay people. And so Daniela is like really, really, really down bad for Leto in this episode, and like literally chasing him to his apartment and threatening to get the paparazzi in there. And she's like, I'm gonna have like really kinky hot sex with you. She gets into his room and finds his wonderful boyfriend who's there, and he tries to cover it up for 2 seconds before going, it's fucking whatever. And instead of, this is the earnestness of Sense8, instead of her being mad or worried or freaked out, she's extremely turned on by this and deeply interested in being their like shared beard / straight friend. As they enjoy a new friendship blossoming. Surprised? Were you surprised? I know I told you, but like in hindsight, all the stuff in the first episode where it's like, I can't kiss you. I'm like, guys, it's not subtle. It's not subtle at all.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely helps you to understand, like, the part of the first episode where his co-star comes in the nun costume, and she's like, maybe I can help you with that. And it's like, did I put in the wrong video? Like, what's happening right now? And then you know, you realize like, oh, okay, they're doing that on purpose, so that they can then do this here. It's interesting to me that this is like a reveal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something about that narratively that's kind of, I don't have an opinion necessarily on if it's a good or a bad thing, but
I mean, let's remember this was all released at once. So like you just hit next episode and you go, oh, he's gay. Why didn't you just tell me that in the first episode? Because the dramatic tension is funny.
Right. I think that's what I'm sort of wondering is like, do we gain something by being in the dark for an episode about Leto's sexuality? Right. And I think so, because I think it puts us in the position where we develop the like kind of outsider perspective on him as this like macho actor guy that other people have. And then we're like, oh, that's what everybody thinks is going on. But actually, this is, you know, his real self behind closed doors. So I guess that's the justification. But it did feel a little weird for them to be like, whoa, there's a guy in the bed. You know, like it's almost a little cheesy.
It's
but very, very tender. Oh my God, what a nice little scene between these two beautiful men just loving each other.
Fernando is amazing. The guy that his boyfriend, and also Daniela is one of my favorite characters in the show. Just like she's a side character that breaks out of she breaks out of the role of side character into like, you know, just amazing person of her own. And I love her whole deal. I love the friendship between the three of them and how that works and how it doesn't feel like, you know, like Leto is an example of a gay guy who's not. He's not like every stereotypical gay man. He's not effeminate. He's actually like super masculine and is in traditionally masculine action movies. But he has to be closeted to do that. And it makes you think about like, well, how many masculine action movie guys are closeted gay men? Famously in Hollywood, the answer is a lot of them, actually. And we just don't hear about that. So it's like really interesting. And hearing they're going to go on to like deal with how do you do this in the public eye? How do you continue to maintain a beard and maintain a homosexual relationship while being a like prolific action man is like super cool. Yeah.
I kind of don't like want Leto to be a Sense8 and interact with the rest of the plots. You know what I mean? It's like what well, let's just watch this movie where it's like the three of them and they have this like kind of buddy comedy situation together. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Sense8 at its best is like 8 different little movies that you want to watch that just happen to smush into each other, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's also going to be about how like connecting to these other people is going to help you in your plot line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just that you have your plotline and you struggle or you figure things out and it's good. It's like, well, I need your help. Okay, let me ask Nomi for help. Because there's a brief cut hinting at that idea when Nomi's talking about transphobia and the idea of like being in the closet and all that stuff. And then they cut to Leto and you're like, oh. And that's the kind of match cut that I was talking about in the first half that I love. Yeah. It's like, hey, it's connected via the camera and your brain knowing how to put 2 and 2 together. That's all it took.
Right. I have a thematic question. And this is still cooking a little bit. But when Nomi gives her monologue about her own experience growing up vis-a-vis religion, the relationship with her parents, how she's treated in the world as someone who's trans, it's this like this affirming and defiant speech about her trans identity and about pride. And during that, we're like, that is like the being overlaid over us cutting between different Sense8s as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about like, is this show drawing a connection between being a Sense8 and being queer? Like, is there something there to explore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if the images and the words are being combined there, they must be for a reason, but I'm finding it a little hard to draw those lines. And maybe that's something that gets fleshed out later. But that was interesting to me, that we're showing characters who, at least I don't know to what extent they are queer or not, but they're being visually brought into the we, and that's the title of the episode, I'm also a we, in a way that is intriguing to me. And I wonder if that is ultimately like going to make thematic sense or not. You know what I mean? Sense8.
Thank you.
Do you have thoughts on that? I'm curious about your perspective on that.
I think it's what the viewer brings to the show. That's like what I like about Sense8 is it's not always explicit about the themes and those things. Sometimes it's too explicit, honestly. But sometimes it's just like, hey, you can connect what it means to be trans and what it means to be connected to 7 other people on the earth. There is something in there about like feeling your body and feeling your sexuality and understanding that you, the solo you, are not the only one inside of your head. And we are all embodying different lived experiences and learned experiences. And that's why gender is fake, or it's constructed, it's socially constructed, because we all make our reality together. We make truth together. So that's where I think the two things connect to each other. But ultimately with Sense8, I just think that it's going to keep giving you those crumbs, and then you're the one to assemble them into meaning. The show is not going to like tell you how to feel about. There's not going to be a scene, right, where Nomi is like, I feel more connected to men and women now because I am connected to 7 other people. It's just something for you to think about, and it is there.
That makes sense.
Anyways, yeah, Leto, I want to say my boyfriend, but he's happily spoken for, so I'm not going to say Leto, my boyfriend. Leto, my friend. I wish I was Daniela in this situation, actually. The scene where they are on the red carpet and he's pretending to be straight is so funny, where he's like, we have a private relationship. They're like, are you guys seeing each other? And he's like, we're, friends, really good friends. It's like, oy, 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 oy. I love it, but it's so corny. That's my main note on Leto. Do you want to move on to the next person?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's Kala time. Kala, we didn't talk about this here, but we talked about it in the pilot chats. She is Hindu, and she's praying to
Ganesh in the pilot?
Ganesh. Yes, yeah. She's praying to Ganesh in the pilot. She has a big connection to them, and they're trying to like confine this person into one of their deities. That like, hey, I don't know if I love this guy. I'm performing a lot of these marriage rituals. I feel like there's love for me out there somewhere else. A lot of her plot is about the ritual of romance and the ritual of marriage, and that's why they said it in India is, there are a lot of complicated marriage rituals, and that all culminates in a really beautifully shot but really goofy dance sequence during the sort of like pre-wedding ceremony that she has with I wrote her fiance's name down somewhere. I don't have it handy. But they do a dance together. Their parents seem to be into it, although her husband or her fiance's dad is seems to be like some sort of sketchy businessman, maybe, which I can only read from him having a suit and seeming kind of like sketchy. That's all I really know about that.
I mean, and because there must be something wrong with him, right? Because her fiance otherwise seems like a pretty great guy. Like he's handsome. He dances good. He's nice. He's romantic. It's, he's got a lot going for him, but he's got a creepy business dad, and he must be doing creepy business too, probably, or something.
Rajan is her fiance.
Rajan. That's his name, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember if it's the dad or the fiance or both who are sketchy, but you get the feeling that you're like, it can't work this cleanly.
Right.
Oh, there's like stuff coming up that's so stupid. Oh, okay. Kala's plotline is not my favorite. That's just what I'm gonna say about that.
Okay, fair. It's fair.
I like the actress. I think she's like having fun with the role, and she's beautiful. The like costuming in these scenes is beautiful. The wedding, the dance sequence is really well shot. It really is. But my take just always comes back to the Wachowskis aren't great about race, and this stuff feels like somebody read a couple of Wikipedia pages about Indian marriage rituals and was like, we did the work, guys. We figured out. And like, maybe they did a lot of research, but it feels by the numbers. Here's how like a Bollywood marriage plotline happens.
Yeah. I also am kind of getting the vibe. I think another lens to look at Sense8 through is that Sense8, like you said, Sense8 is 8 different movies, but it's really like 8 different genres of movie in a way.
Yeah.
Because like different plots are at times shot differently from each other. The visual language is just different. Like the camera changes, the frame rate changes during the Bollywood dance number. It's like shot in a way that other scenes aren't. It feels like the show is kind of also like a genre play space for the Wachowskis a little bit. And I think there are some spaces where that's kind of fun, and I could watch Riley run around and have pseudo Matrix adventures all day. Like they know how to make that look cool. And then in Kala's plot, it's sort of like, okay, like you're capable filmmakers, you made this look and feel cool, but it doesn't feel like your thing, you know? So that's also something that I'm at least watching for, is like, you know, how do you make this work where it's like over here there's a heist movie happening, and over here there's a rom-com, and it's all one show kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that the cuts between them also indicate like which plots the writers felt more confident telling, because like Will's plot doesn't cut into other people that much right now, because like the people writing this knew how to do a cop drama, but it almost feels like they don't want to just do a Bollywood story, so they like have to integrate Wolfgang into Kala's plot. They like literally have to, because otherwise they would just write a by the books. Like they're like, okay, well, we can't just do it, so let's make it unique and let's do our little Sense8 spin on this one. And like Riley's is this sort of like late 80s crime European thriller film, and every time you're not sure what to do with Riley, you just punctuate it with her listening to other people, because she's a DJ. She keeps an ear out for things. So like introducing Wolfgang, like Kala is seeing him outside of this pre-wedding ceremony and being like, who is this mysterious man? Why is there like a white guy in Mumbai right now? Also, I don't want to marry my husband, this guy, you know? Sorry, I don't know the difference between husband and fiance. I've never been married before. One of them's there's a ceremony at some point.
Yeah.
Briefly, just to touch on it, Wolfgang, in being introduced to Kala's plot, is also having a little bit of sex, a little bit of like, we get to see that actor's butt, which is kind of fun, kind of flirty. Not too much to say about him though in this episode, other than he's starting to feel the connection happen. A lot of season 1 is like waiting for people to feel it and going, oh, okay, there's the moment, they found it. And he got to have it sooner than most of the other characters. Why? Who could say? Maybe there's a reason. Maybe just because, like you were saying, like, what is Wolfgang's plot? It is hate my dad, glad he's dead, I love to crack safes. Okay, we cracked a safe. Now what? Like, while his plot is just not going anywhere, they might as well put him in in another story.
Yeah, we kind of ran out of movie. Like he did the whole heist movie, and then he's like, okay, I guess now I'm gonna like have sex or something and be.
And then he
sad.
says, he tells the girl after they have the sex, he says, I'm really craving Indian food, which like,
I don't know, something with my senses.
All 8 of them. Will has a bad plot line. Okay, I got you. Oh, fuck. I messed up. Do we even want to talk about Will? I hate Will so much. He's my least favorite sensei by a country mile. And that's not just because he's a cop, although it is because he's a cop.
Yeah. It's just boring. The cop stuff is so boring and also kind of bad. Like, I wouldn't watch this show, you know? Yeah.
It's boring for cop stuff.
Right. The other plots, if you were just like, hey, here's this show, it's about this guy who drives around the Van Damme bus.
Yes.
I'd be like, take me to Nairobi. I love it. Please. But yeah, Will in Cop Chicago, I'm a white cop guy. I'm not super curious about it. But I think that's why they have him doing, to their credit, like that's why he's the one who's doing the like core lore story stuff.
Yes.
Right. Because like what else is going on? I mean, we're building up this stuff with his dad, Joey Pants.
Joey Pants is in this show. Yeah, it is. Joe Pantoliano. Yep.
Acting his pants off, by the way. I mean, at first I was like, Joey Pants, come on.
He slaps the poop bag on the table.
By the way.
Yeah,
he slaps the poop bag. And he's great in that scene where he's slapping the poop bag and talking to his son and being like, hey, don't follow this thing. He's acting his, like I said, I'm going to say it again, he's acting his absolute ass off inside those pants. And we love Joey Pants because of that. But yeah, I don't need to watch Will talk to his partner and his partner be like, man, another day freaking doing what we do. But that's why he's doing the Jonas stuff.
Yeah, he's investigating Jonas.
By Weezer.
You know what's extra messed up? Will's plot is exactly Kevin Jr.'s plot in The Leftovers season 1. He has a dad. He has a dad who is also a cop who says, hey, I know you're having visions. Don't lean into those visions too much. They could go really badly for you. That's it.
Yeah, you're right. It's much better in The Leftovers.
Yo, of course. Yeah, because it lampshades that and acknowledges the problems with that. Whereas this is literally, my dad has also had visions before. He thinks that's weird. He's just another cop. I'm a cop. How many times in these 2 episodes does Will do something because he has the authority as a cop, even when he's not on duty? Keeping a gun next to your nightstand, that's not safe. Kicking open somebody's door and you say, I'm a cop, and then you think you're allowed to kick their door open. Taking somebody to a hospital and forcing them to be treated because I'm a cop. Everything, every scene here, or like investigating the scene where he saw Jonas and Angelica. Why can he do that? Because he's a cop. It's entirely a skill set that they gave a character. Like I talked in The Leftovers season 1 about they made Kevin Jr. a cop instead of the mayor, like he was in the book, because cops can do certain things. They can wield guns in public. They can, assert dominance over people in like structurally acceptable ways. And that's exactly what Will's whole purpose in the show is. He's like, we need to do some investigating. We have access to police computers. That's it. There's no character to him beyond that. And to my memory, there almost never is.
Right. We need someone who can chase Jonas out of the place and do a car thing.
And when they're in the convenience store, he goes like, I can arrest you. I'm a cop. And it's like, Jonas is like a being, dude. He's not a dude you can just arrest.
A being.
It's a concept.
Oh my God.
Naveen Andrews is so charming and also kind of hot. Can I say that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's hot.
He was Saeed on Lost. He's one of my top 5 characters on Lost. That's why I really like him. But he actually gets to do his natural British accent in this. I remember because in that he's doing a Arab accent. And I wanted to take a breath after that. He's doing an Arab accent. And I heard interviews with him and he's like, hello, I'm Naveen Andrews. And I was like, huh? So at least he's allowed to be British in this.
Yeah.
So Will's investigating stuff, and then Jonas is able to escape him because he's like, hey, just be aware, some bad stuff's gonna happen, you need to be ready, don't chase me, blah blah blah. I think his that ends the episode where he's like running into somebody's car, although there is a brief check-in with Riley.
Yeah, there's some like booping and bopping between him and Jonas's car. Like Jonas goes into his car and he's like, what the fuck? And then he boops into Jonas's car and Jonas is like, nice, dude. That's fucking awesome. Now you're going to crash. I love where he's like, if you're in here, who's driving your car? And then, they're doing some like straight people stuff with Will and Riley looking at each other in the mirror.
Oh, you picked up on it. He picked up on it.
It's like, okay. Can we go back to the bed with the 3 cool people who are like sipping wine and figuring out their situation? I like that.
Yes, please. The story romances in the show are disappointing. All 2 of them. But it's like because it's a show that's so diverse and interesting that when it gets like hetero, it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess they would love each other. That makes some sort of sense. Whatever. Riley is dealing with the fact that she just watched all of her friends shoot each other.
Yeah, true.
There's drugs. She might be the person that the police are looking for now. We don't know much about her backstory yet. She's got a backstory. I think I end up liking Riley more. Eventually, we'll do a ranking of the Sense8s. I think we should do that at some point. Maybe at the end of the season, and then check in on.
Why don't we do our current ranking right now?
Okay, you got it. Let me pull up a list of all 8 of them. Okay, I have all 8 in front of me.
Have we talked about everybody's plot? Yeah, we did. Well, okay.
Yeah, that's it. It's not a very complicated episode.
Yeah. Okay.
How about I say a name and then we'll put that at the top, and then you just tell me if the next person goes above or below that.
We'll do King of the Queen of the Hill, Royal of the Hill style.
King of Queens style.
We're a TV
podcast. We have to do a King of Queens.
We'll do Kevin James style. And by Kevin James, I mean Laura Remini style.
Oh. Number 1, Sun Beck. She wins.
The Queen of Kings.
Congratulations.
Okay. So, yep. Leah Remini. No. I'm so sorry. I said Laura Remini.
Yeah, come on. I knew it sounded weird. Number 2, Capheus. Above or below Sun?
Above.
Agreed. Okay. Number 3, Nomi Marks. Above or below Sun? I will say right now for me, above Sun, below Capheus.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Capheus is my number 1 with a bus right now.
Okay, Lita Rodriguez, number 1 for me.
Tough. Okay.
I love it's. I'm also talking about his plot.
Yeah, I'm loving the Leto plot. The Leto plot's very fun.
Yes. Kala, I forgot her last name. Kandekar, I think. Above or below Sun?
This is where it's tough because Sun didn't get seen.
All she got was like I going, good women can clope and ugh.
Yeah. Kala right now is ahead. I think let's let Sun and Capheus, I guess, sit out of this one because they didn't get
a whole plot for a whole entire episode.
Yeah, so we'll just let them sit out of the rankings right now.
Okay.
Kala's below Nomi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now we got Leto number 1, number 2 Nomi, number 3 Kala. Next up Wolfgang. Amadeus
below
Mozart.
Kala.
Yeah, I do like his friend. You'll like his friend.
His friend's
more.
Cool. That's his brother, isn't it? Or no?
I think so. Maybe not.
Will is
below Wolfgang.
Below Wolfgang. Riley is
below Wolfgang, above Will.
Yeah, I was gonna put her above Wolfgang.
Yeah. No, okay. I feel you.
Yeah, I think that's what it is right now. Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Leto number 1, number 2 Nomi, number 3 Kala, number 4 Riley, number 5 Wolfgang, number 6 Will. With notable absences, Sun and Capheus, because they didn't get an episode. So we'll update this list over time.
Yeah. Great.
Let us know at home if you guys, who's your favorite. I know this will change drastically as we go on.
Any stray notes on the second episode here?
Oh, Neat saw Jonas on Nomi's camera, which means that Jonas does exist.
Yeah, Jonas is real.
Jonas is real. He's not just an imaginary man. We didn't talk about the theme song. It's very like, look at all the connected people. There's Twin Peaks, San Francisco, and a large crowd of people in India, and 2 gay men licking an ice cream.
I also love the 2 guys licking the ice cream.
It's the best part. Everyone loves it. It's the best.
I wrote about it in my notes for both episodes. In the second episode, I was like, I can't tell if this is the same set of images as the first one, and then we got to those guys eating ice cream, and I was like, okay, yeah.
We don't even know if they're gay. It's just 2 bearded men licking an ice cream. Maybe they were just friends.
Yeah, I don't even need to know. I mean, more power to you. Whichever reason it is, you're eating ice cream, conserving time to melt, love, whatever you got going on there.
Split the calories between the 2. Sure.
Split the calories. Yeah, I'll share an ice cream.
UFLS is the name of the brain illness that Nomi's misdiagnosed with.
Mm-hmm.
It is something sad to think about that trans people are often misdiagnosed with mental illness. Show's not confident enough or prepared right now to talk about the extent to which that can go wrong. But for now, it's UFLS is a brain disease, and maybe Nomi has it, but most likely she doesn't, and this guy sucks. and he's probably paid by her mom. That's mostly what I got there. I wrote homosexual icon Lito Rodriguez. I'm so excited to talk about him. His boyfriend's hot. I said all these things. Oh, when Lito is... This is the thing, right? The show's corny. Every like earnest line is so corny. But when Lito says something and you're like, oh, that's so goofy, you realize that he's quoting a movie. Because he's like a film guy. And it's his boyfriend going like, oh, that's really corny. And you're like, oh, wait, the show can't do both like actually corny and then like lampshaded immediately. Come on.
There's a lot of great dialogue in the Lito plot, especially when Daniela shows up. I mean, it's very uncomfortable when Daniela shows up and she's pressuring Lito, and then it becomes great when she finds out what's going on and she's like, oh, I'm down for this. Yes. But you know, when she gets into the bedroom, she's saying, what's the problem, Lito? And then Lito's boyfriend says, the problem is, honey, that you don't have a cock.
Bing bong.
That's pretty funny. I do like that line a lot. There's some other lines I liked. In the Will plot, when he goes to the bar where his dad is, and all these like crusty old cop guys are heckling him, and one of them says, you got some sack of balls coming in here.
The king.
Okay. And then they're fighting over the free beer.
He's like, stop hectoring me. Yeah.
And then when he goes into the convenience store and he's like, do you have like sleep medicine? And the guy goes on this long thing about how he has a preferred sleep medicine that he takes with booze because he loves the buzz. And he says, drugs are like shoes. Everyone needs them, but they don't always fit. It's like, who are you? Are you like the most important character in Sense8?
Yeah.
What's happening? Why did you get more screen time than Sunbach or Caffeus?
Yeah, just like check in on them. I'll watch them eat breakfast and just be like, yep, they paid the actor. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
I think they didn't film enough for them is the real answer. And you'll see why later.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought that guy was hilarious. I love it when the side characters just get to be a whole ass dude for 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's fun.
I think I had one more thing. Oh, maybe I'm not up on my terminology here. Amanita sees Jonas on the camera and she describes him as a Persian guy. Are we calling people Persian in 2015?
I don't know.
I don't know either. And I'm Middle Eastern and I don't know. Persian relates to ethnicity while Iranian encompasses a nationality. So you can be Iranian and not be Persian. You can be Iranian, Mazandrani, Jalaki, etc.
Got it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I didn't want to... And this Google search is probably not the like first and final answer, but I was just curious, what's the usage of that? And it seems like it's fine. The way she used it, it's a nationality.
Got it.
And then, yeah, ending on that car chase was so, like, just, I want to hit next episode, guys. Why can't you... like, that's going to be a thing we run into with Sense8 a lot, is, like, they don't end episodes. They just expect you to hit the next one. Sometimes it's... We're very early in the era of, you know, shows get dropped all at once, and they're basically one long movie. And occasionally season 1 feels like that, where it's like, what? Why did the episode end? What? Okay.
Yeah, both of these episodes, I was like, what? Is that... Okay.
Yeah, Nomi's ends with everyone getting shot, and you're like, well, who... Okay, if you say so. Not Nomi. I'm sorry. Riley. Yes. Riley. Do you want to talk about what we're watching next week?
I do. Next time on Chatz8, we're watching the next 2 episodes of Sense8 Season 1. First is Episode 3. Smart Money is on the skinny... bitch is the word. It's part of the title, so I read it, but I don't like saying that word. With many of the Sense8's lives becoming more complicated, their newfound gift, while still a mystery, proves vital for survival. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Then episode 4, What's Going On? And I said, hey, yeah, 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 yeah.
Great karaoke song. I said, hey.
What's going on?
Not a good karaoke song to do second. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we made that mistake recently. Nomi's fate draws nearer. Caffeus and Wolfgang's fortunes seem to have turned, but Sun is faced with an impossible choice. Okay, so Sen and Cassius are finally back in the show in episode 4.
By biting my tongue really hard. That episode's cool. It's interesting. It's
Okay.
narratively important. It's great. I love it. You're gonna love it.
Okay.
That's all. It's good.
Great.
I don't remember too many episodes, but that one is you know. Anyways, let's take it to the plug zone. Did you know that we host 2 other podcasts, folks? If you're listening on this main Chats feed, then you already know that. We do Should You Watch every month, where we watch new television shows and talk about them. And we watch all of them and tell you if they're worth adding to your queue. Every 3 months, we do Trek Chats, which you just heard 2 weeks ago, where we watch a season of Star Trek The Next Generation every 3 months. And we talk about it as first-timers. So check those out. They all have their own podcast feeds. So if you just want to listen to those things, you can do that if you're not caught up or don't want to listen to main feed chats. In terms of our regular plug zone, I can take this one, Meg, if you don't mind.
Please do.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, send them to chatspod@gmail.com. That's CHATZPOD@gmail.com. We have a Twitter, which is @chatspod, and we have a community-run subreddit, which is r chatspod. If you like the show, please consider rating us on your podcast platform of choice. We are on everything. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all the good stuff. Check us out on those, subscribe, rate, etc. And if you'd like to support us financially, you can do so by going to patreon.com/chatspod, where at $1, $3, or $5 a month, you get different tiers of bonus content, including movie commentaries, including piloting shows like Sense8, like you heard last week, including, what else do we do? We do a lot of weird stuff. We do a lot of interesting. Magellan talks about the X-Files occasionally. It's wet and wild. And if you want to hear more of us, that's the best way to do it. So you get all of that at $3, and at $5 you get all of that plus a thank you at the end of every main Chats feed episode. So as of today, thank you to our $5 patrons: Arthur, Jen, Justin, Kat, Lee, Magellan's mom, Marcus, Michael, Nick and Pat of the Brothers at Infinite War, 6, and Stefan. Thank you for supporting Chats, y'all. We really appreciate you. All things Chats can be found at chatspod.com. And if you like our main feed podcast art, that's done by our friend Camilla. She can be found at Camilla Strader on all of the social media platforms. And Magellan, I almost forgot to ask, are you on any other podcasts that you want to recommend to folks or tell people about?
I am. It's a video game podcast called Super Smash Echoes, which I do with my friend Justin, where we talk about video games that are related to Super Smash Brothers in some way. And it's a fun little video game book club. Super Smash Echoes. Check it out.
Fabulous.
What about you?
Thanks. I can be found on The Hundreds Quorum, which is on scanlinemedia.com. It's a show where my friend Six and I do a little ranking show. We rank Pokemon and we rank Monster Hunter monsters. And by rank, I mean decide if they're worth keeping or cutting because they're boring or cool. Yeah, we do that over there. And that's, it's kind of at a random cadence whenever we have the time to do it. But we're going to get close to wrapping up relatively soon until they make more Pokemon. And my other main gig is Talking Marketing, which is a bi-monthly marketing podcast that I host with my volunteer job with the AMA in Boston. We interview marketing professionals in a fun and short format way, and it's really cool. And we're going to put out 2 episodes in October. So check out Talking Marketing wherever you listen to those. And before we say goodbye, folks, last thing here, we do a segment called Chatsums, where every host on the episode gets to recommend the listener something between now and next episode of Chats to enjoy, whether it be an experience of your life, a piece of media, a thought, a poem, or a picture. Magellan, what's your chatsum for this week?
So I've previously chatsumed a YouTube channel called Hive Mind, where these guys, Riley and Graydon. Graydon sometimes goes by Dignan, or it's a totally different guy. That's kind of the bit. But they have a YouTube channel where they just do various videos chatting about and playing games related to mostly hip-hop music. But they recently started a second channel called Hive Mind Unlimited, where it's still them, but they're talking about whatever now. And they're charming, funny guys. They recently did a video with Nick from Nick Is Not Green, where they taste tested 2 sodas mixed together and tried to guess what sodas they were. And that was kind of fun.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. So there you go. Hive Mind Unlimited.
Hive Mind. Oh, Hive Mind Unlimited. Okay, great.
Yeah, their second channel. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. My chatsum this week is a TV show. Believe it or not, sometimes we watch TV outside of chats. Believe it or not. believe it or not. I've been watching Andor on Disney Plus. I've been just
Is it good?
But it's the best Star Wars TV show.
Shut up. I've heard it's really good.
It's fucking astounding.
Did we fuck up by not watching it?
Yeah, now everyone else is covering it. A More Civilized Age is literally covering it instead of Clone Wars temporarily because it's so goddamn good.
Yeah, man.
So Magellan's referring to the fact that we did a Should You Watch on the Book of Boba Fett, which was, spoiler alert, really disappointing. And
Yeah,
you're like,
God.
are they going to make a good show? And Andor had some hype, right? That first trailer was like really good. And then they were like, we're going to use real sets. We're not using our like CG set format that Kathleen Kennedy and company like crafted and put a lot of money into. We're going to use real ass sets. Let me tell you guys, those real sets look really good. The show is an incredible showcase of my new 4K TV. The show is also incredibly well written because what if Star Wars characters talked like real people instead of like weird George Lucas puppets? It's bananas. Their episode 3 is like a Tony Gilroy heist thriller. All of the characters are interesting. The villains are nuanced and it's beautifully shot. And the writing is just the dialogue. It fucking sucks. I hate it. How good it is. It's so good. God damn it. Check out Andor on Disney Plus. Even if you don't give a goddamn about Star Wars, it does not care about the rest of Star Wars. It is just good in its own little world, and plenty of people are watching it. I'm not here to be like, no people are watching it, but if you're curious, it's good. It gets the Allen seal of approval. That's what we got, folks. Thank you to Magellan for being thank you for being the gaffiest to my son, because neither of us appeared in these episodes. In the second one, at least. And thank you, dear listener, for listening to this episode of Chatz8. Peace.
Bye-bye.